Maryanne Trump Berry, the eldest sister of former President Donald Trump, passed away at the age of 86, as reported by U.S. media. She was discovered deceased in her New York City apartment on Monday morning at approximately 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 9 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time. The cause of her death has not yet been disclosed. From 1983 until her retirement in 2019, Mrs. Berry served as a federal judge in New Jersey. She is the third sibling out of Mr. Trump's four to have passed away. Despite our request for comment, a spokesperson for the former president did not immediately respond. According to sources, emergency crews were dispatched in response to a call regarding a person in cardiac arrest. There were no indications of foul play or trauma, as stated by the source. The exact cause of death will be determined by a medical examiner at a later time. Mrs. Berry, who chose not to involve herself in the family's real estate business, worked as one of only 2 female prosecutors in the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Jersey from 1974 to 1983. With the assistance of her brother's well-known lawyer and fixer, Roy Cohn, Mrs. Berry was nominated by President Ronald Reagan as a federal district judge in 1983. In her niece Mary's 2020 memoir, Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man, Mrs. Berry revealed that her nomination was the only favor I ever asked for in my whole life. However, she claimed that Mr. Trump never let her forget it. In 1999, President Bill Clinton appointed Mrs. Berry to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit, which covers parts of New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. However, in 2019, an investigation by the New York Times into the Trump family's taxes led to a misconduct inquiry into Mrs. Berry. She retired in February of that year, and the inquiry was ultimately closed without reaching a conclusion. Mrs. Berry had 2 marriages in her lifetime. Her first husband was David Desmond, with whom she had a son named David. After their divorce, she married John Joseph Berry, who passed away in 2000. She had a close relationship with her younger brother, who mentioned during his 2015 presidential campaign that she would be an excellent choice for the U.S. Supreme Court. However, in 2016, he admitted in a radio interview that they had some differences in their views. Mrs. Berry, a Republican like Mr. Trump, preferred to stay out of the public eye and never publicly commented on him. However, their relationship reportedly changed after the release of Mary Trump's book, which included conversations between Mrs. Berry and her niece. Mary Trump, a vocal critic of her uncle, shared audio recordings of these conversations that she had secretly recorded. In one of the recordings published by the Washington Post, Mrs. Berry is heard saying that Mr. Trump only wants to appeal to his base and lacks principles. She also mentioned that she had done his homework for him and someone else took his exams when he attended the University of Pennsylvania. Despite their differences, the siblings were starting to reconcile and were seen together at the former president's club in Bedminster, New Jersey, during the summer. Mr. Trump, the frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination, has experienced the loss of his brothers Fred and Robert in 1981 and 2020, respectively. He also lost his first wife, Ivana Trump, last year. His only surviving sister, Elizabeth Trump Grau, is 81 years old and used to work as a banker.